Welcome to another video for biology. In this video we're going to be discussing DNA code. So I want you to consider something for a second. Take a look at this code. All you see is a bunch of zeros and ones in various combinations and in a various order, but this is actually something we call binary code. Okay, this binary code actually is coding for something that we do understand. This is a code for a particular, the beginning part of the Declaration of Independence. So right now, as you see the code, we can't understand it unless you know how to read binary code, which is great. But for the most part, we don't understand what this says. But when you translate this binary code into our English vernacular, when in the course of human events, and again, this is the beginning of the Declaration of Independence. So this number code actually does code for something that we understand. In fact, the very website that you're watching right now, or using, which is probably YouTube, this website is designed by computer code. And I'm going to show you a little video right now, and I want you to, as you're watching this video, I want you to consider the code that is being implemented into the design of different apps, okay? Because this very code, this code is what's used also to make all the pretty websites, all the unique and cool websites that we have, from Facebook, ESPN.com, to the different news websites that we have, to the different apps that we use, Snapchat, Instagram, you name it, Pinterest, if you're even using that anymore. So again, please consider the code that's being used in this video.
Right now, I'm a junior at the Colorado School of Mines. I'm majoring in computer science.
Hey.
Hi, how are you?
Pretty good.
I go to see Professor Bakos pretty often to look at my code.
I often have this disease, which I call long line-itis.
Okay, well, we may be able to do that.
Yeah, so that removes the instance, which you don't even need. I didn't even think of that. You know, the motivation that we talked about in class about writing beautiful code? Is it enough just to write that slew of code such that the program just works? Or is the code also the artistic medium?
Beautiful code is short and concise, so if you were to give that code to another programmer, they would say, oh, that's well-written code. It's much like if you're writing a poem. Right now here, this is Objective-C. It's what iPhone, iPad, and Mac use for programming. I've created about 15 apps for both the Mac, iPhone, and iPad. Sometimes when I go to sleep, I'm stuck with an annoying bug that I can't fix. And in my dreams, I see myself programming. And when I wake up, I have figured out the solution.
All right, so you just viewed Diego Gonzalez implement computer code into a really creative way, and every one of us can do that if we want to take the time to learn computer code. I think one of my favorite things that I heard in this video was how Professor Bakos was describing the code itself as being an artistic medium. So often we consider what this code creates, like for example, website design. We look at all the different really cool websites we have, but we seldom look at the code that goes into making these websites as being artistic or having artistic value itself. Likewise with DNA, you know, we're talking about 4 nucleic bases, 4 nitrogen bases that are able to make the variety of organisms that you see on Earth, from the toucan bird, the gorilla, the human organism, to all the different variety of birds that you see, the different variety of cats, dogs, bears. Really creative stuff, but we seldom look at the code itself. It's very simple yet there's a beauty to it that we often overlook, an elegance to it. And I thought that was a pretty cool idea. DNA is in and of itself an artistic medium that was used in creating all of these various organisms. So if computer code can create all the wide variety of websites that we see, I want you to consider something else for a second. Much like computer code, we also have something called genetic code. Okay, so you have these 4 letters from an alphabet that we very well recognize, but we may not recognize the order in which these are at. This is called genetic code. This is what your DNA is made out of, all these various combinations of the 4-letter alphabet A, G, T, C. Okay. Now this is actually a specific code. This code is coding for something very specific, something that we discuss in one of the videos for transcription. Just like the previous code that we saw, which is with the zeros and ones, the binary code coded for specific words. This codes for a specific enzyme called RNA polymerase. So consider that for a second. You have a code that codes for something, not just a two-dimensional object like a website, but this actually codes for three-dimensional objects like proteins and enzymes that eventually make the buildup or the building blocks for a human organism or any organism that you see on Earth. And organisms have a length, width, and a depth, unlike a website. Okay, so you have RNA polymerase. So watch this video showing how RNA polymerase works in a DNA molecule.
The assembled collection of all these factors is referred to as the transcription initiation complex, and now it is ready to be activated. The initiation complex requires contact with activator proteins, which bind to specific sequences of DNA known as enhancer regions. These regions may be thousands of base pairs distant from the start of the gene. Contact between the activator proteins and the initiation complex releases the copying mechanism. The RNA polymerase unzips a small portion of the DNA helix, exposing the bases on each strand. Only one of the strands is copied. It acts as a template for the synthesis of an RNA molecule, which is assembled one subunit at a time by matching the DNA letter code on the template strand. The subunits can be seen here entering the enzyme through its intake hole, and they are joined together to form the long messenger RNA chain snaking out of the top.
So that's pretty cool how RNA works in copying down DNA. RNA polymerase works in copying down DNA and making it into a messenger RNA. The interesting part about that is the RNA polymerase itself is coded in the genetic code. So the video that you just saw, that RNA polymerase may very well have been copying down the code that will code for the making of another RNA polymerase. So that's pretty cool. So again, this genetic code is based off of a 4-letter alphabet that we've been discussing in previous videos. Okay.
Think of how many letters fit on a single page. And now imagine a stack of pages 300 feet tall. That's how much information is stored in the DNA inside every human cell, the entire human genome. If you sort through the 3 billion letters that make up the human genome, you find some surprising things. Only about 1% of the 3 billion letters directly codes for proteins. Of the rest, about 25% make up genes and their regulatory elements. The function of the remaining letters is still unclear.